it stamped him as the top horse in the world.
One of the greatest stories in sports is that of the world's leading money-winning thoroughbred Cigar. But even more extraordinary is the story of his trainer, Bill Mott. At a bush meet in South Dakota, Mott won his first race with a $320 mare named My Assets. What Mott did with the assets of that win is now written in racing history forever. Among his achievements are back-to-back Eclipse Awards, numerous training titles, $8.5 million in Breeders' Cup earnings alone. And most notably, he is the youngest trainer ever inducted into the Hall of Fame. It is my privilege to present Trainer Bill Mott, Unbridled.
When I was a little kid, I always dreamed of being, I wanted to be a cowboy. I wanted to be a rancher. I wanted to have cattle and horses and so the animal part of it is really, I guess it's born in me. My father having been a veterinarian, and my first job on the racetrack was at 14 years of age, and I would go to school during the school year, obviously, but during the summer months I would train horses, and then it developed into a before and after school job when I was 15, 16, 17, where I would train my horses before school and then finish up what I had to at school, and then after school I'd go back and do more work with the horses. So it started very early, and I started very young, and I got my first trainer's license when I was 16 years old, and obviously won my first race when I was 16. So, and actually maybe a little before that, when I was 15, I actually trained my first horse. However, that horse was officially trained by my father because I wasn't old enough to get my license, even though I was the trainer. I had some very good teachers and have continued with training horses ever since, and it's turned into a business opposed to when I started out. It was actually a passion, and which it still is a passion of mine, but I never thought I would do it to make a living. I really didn't know where it was taking me when I started it. And my passion for the horses is still the same, even though I have to spread myself around a little thinner now that we have a large stable of horses, opposed to when I started out I had, between 1 and 5 horses, and it was a very small group where I was doing all the work myself. I would groom them and gallop each horse myself. I would drive the horse van and did almost everything, and it was very, very personalized then. Now I'm more of a coach and manager, and we delegate a lot of things. No matter what time of year it is, we try to be strategically located where we can get to the major races, have horses at tracks that they belong running at, and that we can race in stakes around the country from any of the 3 bases that we're at. We've got a stable at Saratoga, one at Belmont Park on Long Island, and we have a stable in Churchill Downs.
Having reached the level of success that you're at now, do you find it more challenging to run your operation? Is it easier? Is it harder because of the expectations that are placed on you?
It's actually become easier, although it's still a challenge. I suppose over time you gain confidence and you get the feeling that you've kind of made it and you're going to be able to stay in the business, and somehow, one way or another, when you get older, you feel like, well, I'm going to make it the rest of the way. I guess I'm having turned 50, I've probably made it over halfway already. So we've done a lot and accomplished a lot in the years that we've had a stable going, but the day-to-day challenge is still as big, and having any new horse or having a good horse in the barn is very exciting, and going over there in the afternoons is still as much a challenge. We try to teach the horse to do what we want them to do, obviously. However, we have to make adjustments along the way to try to get to the end result. And if we have to manage a horse a little bit differently, if we have to train him a little bit differently, if we have to do something different in his training routine that seems to keep them happier, yes. To say we get into their head, I suppose we do, but it's a matter of finessing them through it a lot of times rather than using any type of force to do it. You learn your horse. A horse that's had a certain trait may keep that trait forever, and we have horses that don't want to train the wrong way. We have some horses that don't want to train the right way. We have some horses that don't want too much work. Some, require more work. So it's all, it's a big package, and it's a big puzzle, and you have to sometimes sometimes the adjustments are very simple. We've just got to be smart enough to be able to figure those things out. And sometimes it's right in front of us and you say, dang, why didn't we do that before? Or sometimes you'll look back 6 months later and say, man, why didn't I do this? Or I wish I would have known about this at that time. So it's always a learning experience, and we never know it all. And as soon as we think we're so smart we know it all, then we're going to be in for a big surprise. The mental part of it is as much of training as is the physical part of it, because if you start rushing too much, you push too much, you work too fast, you work too often, take them to the gate too much, these horses are going to get overexcited and they're going to get all wound up, and pretty soon they start to panic a little bit when you take them to the racetrack because you're overexerting them too much. If we see evidence of that happening, and usually it's by a horse that's nervous, they're getting wet, they're washing out, they're sweating profusely, we have to back off in our training, take a step back, walk them, jog them, gallop them, canter them, keep them in a quieter environment, space the workout pattern more, put more time in between those works. And usually that works. That's all they're asking for is a little time. And the most difficult thing to do is train for an owner that, when are we going to run? When are we going to run? When are we going to run? It's a nightmare, because in the back of your mind, okay, you're pushing. We want to run. We want to run when they're ready. And but if you have that in the back of your mind, if you have the feeling that you have to run this horse when he's not ready or before he's ready, it really puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on the horse, and consequently your results are not going to be very good.
What is your most satisfying day's work?
To be able to come out here and train these things and look at them and watch the young horses develop, I think is really wonderful. I really do enjoy training the 2-year-olds and watching them come along, and especially if you get the opportunity to get those horses early in the year and watch them through all the different stages that they go through. And then all of a sudden you look up one day and you say, man, this one can really run. And it's not something that happens very often. The percentages really are probably not in your favor is having that happen. So when it does happen and you have a horse that develops into a real candidate to be a stake runner, a stake winner, or actually win a stakes race, it's very, very gratifying, especially if you look back and you look through that horse's training schedule and through some of the decisions that you've had to make with that particular horse. If you've made the right decisions, if you've played everything right, if you've trained when you were supposed to train, and if you've not trained when you were supposed to not train. And I think that has really as much to do with it. Training is as much knowing when to stop as anything. That's probably one of the biggest factors there is. Don't go too far before you ruin the horse.
What advice would you give young trainers?
First thing you have to have is a passion for the business. You have to be passionate about horses, and I think that's most important, really, if you want to be a trainer or if you want to own horses. I really don't want to train for anybody. I don't want to train for people that's not passionate or that don't have a love for the animal. I find it too difficult. If somebody thinks they're going to get in it and it's just a business to them and they don't care about the animal, and if they're just a tool that they can use to make money with, I really don't want to train for them. And usually what happens is that sorts itself out, where even if I get into a situation with somebody and I find that they don't really like horses or love horses, usually we don't stay together because it just doesn't work out. There's no chemistry there.